What may be a major concern when using only CO2 for short-circuit metal transfer? Spatter amount is high, and post-weld cleanup costs may be a major concern. What is CO2 used primarily for welding? Mild and low alloy steels. When added to inert gases, what does hydrogen increase in welds? Heat input into the base material. What is argon? Helium, primarily used for welding. Aluminum, copper, magnesium and their alloys. What are the three primary factors that affect gas flow rates? Type of shielding gas, type and thickness of material, position of welding. Name three other factors that affect gas flow rates. Joint design, wire diameter, size of weld pool, air currents, design of welding fixtures, shielding gas pressure, nozzle to work distance, amount of welding current, welding speed, inclination of the welding gun, leaking gas. What is the gas flow rate range for GMAW? 723 L/min, 1550 CFH. What is the gas flow rate range for FCAW? 1423 L/min, 3050 CFH. Some cylinders have a permanently attached tulip safety cap. What is this type of pressure is this cylinder usually able to carry compared to other cylinders? Higher pressures. How are compressed cylinders made? They are hot drawn from a single piece of metal. What is CO2 sold by? Weight. What is argon, helium, hydrogen, and nitrogen sold by? By volume. What is the pressure of a C02 cylinder at 21 degrees Celsius? 830 psi. For some applications, why should cylinders be changed when the pressure drops to 1.38 MPa, 200 psi? The lower portion of the liquid in the cylinder has higher concentrations of moisture. Why are cylinder and regulator connections different sizes and types? To eliminate the possibility of interchanging regulators on cylinders. What are dewars, or mini, bulk containers designed to hold? Cryogenic gases in liquid form, what is the purpose of a regulator? Reduce source pressure to working pressure, maintain a constant delivery pressure, deliver gas at any desired pressure within the regulator's rated capacity, controls pressure not flow rates, what does a flow meter indicate? The rate of flow of a shielding gas in L/min or in cubic feet per hour, CFH. Flow of a gas is measured more accurately by what than by pressure? Volume, why are hoses generally constructed of plastic materials? Rubber hoses allow helium pressurized above 138 kilopascals, 20 psi to penetrate through the hose causing gas loss, what are gas solenoid valves? Electronically operated valves that control the flow of shielding gas to the weld zone, who is required to wire up a welding power source. Qualified electrical personnel, where do you find the procedure to wire up a welding power source? Equipment manufacturer's operating manual, how must a flow meter be mounted to get an accurate reading? Why? The vertical position, the flow meter will give an incorrect reading if not mounted correctly. Define electrode inclination, work angle. The position of the electrode in relation to the direction of travel. When your electrode is at 0 degrees, where is your electrode in relation to the direction traveling? The electrode is perpendicular, 90 degrees, to the direction of travel, why does flux core only use the backhand method? To prevent slag inclusion in the weld. When loading the wire, why must you always hold on to the loose end? Prevents the spool from unwinding and tangling. Prevents the partial or complete loss of the spool, why use the jog switch if your machine has one? Activates the wire feeder without energizing the wire, or activating the shielding gas. How tight should your drive rolls be? At a point where you achieve a continuous feed without deforming or scarring the surface of the wire. Where should a wire cleaner be placed? Just before the wire feeder. What should you adjust the spool brake to do? To allow the spool to rotate freely, but with enough tension to prevent backlash. What can happen if you use too much anti-spatter compound? It can contaminate the weld and shorten the life of the nozzle. Define electrode angle. The position of the gun in relation to the included joint angle. If undercut occurs, where should you point your electrode to eliminate it? Point it towards the undercut. Forces the undercut area to become hotter, so the metal will flow to that point. Backhand or forehand, which one gives you better penetration? Backhand inclination, 15 to 20 degrees. What type of bead does forehand inclination produce? Flatter with less penetration. What type of metal transfer are recessed contact tubes suitable for? Spray arc transfer. Contact tips must be centered to ensure what? Equal gas penetration to the weld puddle. Contact tip must be centered to ensure what? Equal gas distribution to the weld puddle. What mode of metal transfer are recessed contact tips meant for? Spray arc transfer. What can happen if too much spatter builds up between the nozzle contact tip? Can cause disruption to the gas flow, and can cause an arc between the nozzle and T&E contact tip. What can happen if your work lead connection is poor? It can cause an unstable arc. What is stubbing generally caused by? Excessive wire speed, low arc voltage, heavily scaled base metal. Wire size is selected to match the what properties of the metal. Chemical mechanical, Name 2 characteristics you look for in a GMAW1F weld. Weld size, weld uniformity, weld contour, absence of weld defects, good penetration and tie-ins. What should your weld surface be free of before fit up? Clean, no rust, oil, grease, scale. What technique do you use to weld a GMAW1F? Stringer root, 3/6 passes, or weave beads. What inclination do you use for the root of a 1F GMAW weld? 15 to 30 degrees. What inclination do you use for the fill cap pass for a 1F GMAW weld? 0 to 20 degrees. What is your arc voltage for a 1F GMAW weld? 18. What is your amperage for a 1F GMAW weld? 120. What is your wire feed speed for a 1F GMAW weld? 180. What technique do you use to weld a GMAW2F? Stringer root, 3/6 passes for the fill cap. What inclination do you use for the root of a 2F GMAW weld? 15 to 30 degrees. What inclination do you use for the fill cap pass for a 2F GMAW weld? 0 to 20 degrees. What is your arc voltage for a 2F GMAW weld? 18. What is your amperage for a 2F GMAW weld? 120. What is your wire feed speed for a 2F GMAW weld? 180. What technique do you use to weld a GMAW3F? Stringer weave beads, root downhill, fill cap uphill. What inclination do you use for the root of a 3F GMAW weld? 15 to 30 degrees. What inclination do you use for the fill cap pass for a 3F GMAW weld? 0 to 10 degrees. What is your electrode extension on a GMAW fillet weld? 6.4 mm, 10 mm, 1/4 inch, 3/4. What is your electrode angle on a GMAW fillet weld? 1/2 the included joint angle. Where should your wire be sitting in the puddle on a GMAW fillet weld? Maintain the leading edge of the puddle. What mode of metal transfer are you using for a GMAW fillet weld? Short circuit metal transfer.